1 out of 5 employees in the Netherlands struggle with burnout. That's over 20% of the working people in a country that is actually reaching the top 10 of the most work-life balanced countries in the world. Why is this? So this is a very fascinating concept, as this is of course becoming much closer to us as well, as more people are suddenly start to struggle with lots of issues that are coming of course from their working life. Now of course personal life can also play a massive role. Think about relationship kind of dynamics, or you go through a breakup, a divorce, or some woman seems to struggle with that as well after childbirth, for example, because things were probably way too intense. Or things can also happen after a loved one passed away and there's like an enormous amount of emotional exhaustion. So it is still a very complex topic that I personally had to go through as well. So that's why I want to share a little bit of my own personal experience in that, and then of course my 2 cents on what it is that we actually really should be focusing on. Now, if we go here to Google, you look to burnout statistics, you see here around 20% of employees in the Netherlands had struggled with a burnout or emotional exhaustion in the past year. Now, if we look to what kind of industries, the IT industry is actually one of the major #1 industries where people struggle with things around burnout and mental emotional exhaustion and chronic fatigue or stress. Now, why that is, of course, is also what we will further discuss in this video. But then really, like if we look to a global scale, like top 10 countries with the best work-life balance, you see here like New Zealand #1, Ireland, Belgium, seriously. I've been talking to lots of Flemish colleagues, and actually their working conditions is actually much worse compared to the Netherlands. But then you look to Denmark, Canada, Australia, Norway #1, and Spain #10 and 11, Netherlands. I'm not really quite so sure about this list, because if you listen to the people who actually lived and work in Spain, a lot of them, they actually moved to the Netherlands because of better working conditions. But then you scroll all the way down this list, and we see here United Kingdom. I've lived in United Kingdom in London for over 10 years. It is also a little bit like what kind of work-life balance. You spend easily 50 hours a week with work, lots of overtime, and then of course commutes from into the city, out of the city. It is really mentally draining and exhausted. But if you're career driven, money driven, you want to go into finance, you want to become a big boy, big girl, London might be the place for you. And then you look to lots of Latin American countries. Tokyo seems to be quite worse as well, because the working culture in Tokyo, it seems like really extreme. A lot of men, there's like a really heavy drinking culture there as well. Like the men have to go out for drinking with their customers, with their employers and co-workers, and drink themselves into death. Of course, also suicide rate in countries like Japan are really high. Men have to work, and the whole family dynamics is kind of like non-existence. But then you scroll further down this list, and somewhere at the bottom of the list we still have lots of Latin countries and Latin cultures. It's really like what kind of work-life balance, kind of like non-existence. Then somewhere down the list we have like up here like United States number 55 down this list. So I don't think we are doing that bad here in the Netherlands, working maximum 40 hours a week. And most people, they don't really want to do that either. They're working 4 days a week because they think like, hey, you know, if I work the 5th day of the week, then I will be sharing like 50% over my 5th working day to the government and taxes. So I prefer to keep that day to myself. And those who are working less hours have less salary. They also get like better benefits in the social system as well, like getting help with rent from the government or help with health insurance, and then how less you work, how less you earn, how better benefits you can have as well. So what is really going on in this whole burnout, chronic stress, mental health epidemic that we are seeing in the world? It is of course a very complex thing. That is one thing for sure. Personally, I think it has to do is that we are really highly disconnected from having a holistic way of life. If I look here to the Netherlands, I mean, if you look to the history of the Netherlands itself, they actually invented the word capitalism itself. Think about the Dutch East Indian Company, who was actually one of the largest corporations the world has ever known. In today's money, the East Indian Company was worth over 9 trillion US dollars. That is like, now is combined with larger corporations like Amazon and Apple and all these major corporations. Like 20 of the large corporations in the world, they had the same value of one company in the 17th century because of financing ships and all of that. So the Dutch really invented capitalism, all right? Basically, we brought it over to the West Indies, to the United States. We robbed the Native Americans from their animistic way of life, and we as Europeans thought we are the civilized world and we know a better way of doing things. And we basically, we kind of like stripped the native from their lands, from their connection with the earth, from nature, and we brought a lot of spirits and a liquor to the lands and say, okay, so this is the way to drink away your sorrows. Now, a lot of Native Americans, as we know, because of the sorrow they have experienced from being displaced from their own roots, a lot of them, they started drinking because we brought over, especially we as Dutch, we brought over a lot of spirits and liquids. Now, forward to today's world, of course, we went through the Industrial Revolution and we had invented a clock in, clock out system of working into factories. And all we did was like, hey, you know, if we clock in, we trade our time for money. And that's how we can sustain ourselves. So we're still running with this kind of same mentality. Fast forward to today, we're still having like an industrial way of thinking, but that was of course rooted and invented by the largest corporations in the world. And we still have that kind of mentality because we go through the school system. We are still being taught like you need to be here at 8:30 in the morning and at 3 p.m. you can go home. And we still have that kind of like clock in, clock out system of working for a company, corporation. And actually here in the Netherlands, a lot of employees are actually more being protected and favored than self-employed entrepreneurs. Yes, the Netherlands is a good country to get started as a self-employed entrepreneur, as you get a lot of help and support and all of it until you reach like 60,000 euros a year, and then, you know, you better find a way to get the hell out of this country because of taxes and whatnot. So then, of course, we have things like the weather. It's always miserable, a lot of rain, cold, grey, so that's also not really good for the mood. But we think what's really going on, it's when we look to a workplace, of course we have to begin like how we really have been conditioned throughout childhood ourselves, where we have been projected like a lot of conditions and expectations on how we have to live our life according to the expectations and conditions of someone else. And basically what we are doing and how we are living our life, we are living out of an extrinsic motivation. Like what we are doing, are we actually generating that kind of like motivation from the inside out, which puts us into an action, into an inspired action that is leading us to results? That's the number one question we really need to ask ourselves. The majority is like what they are doing is, number one, is coming from an extrinsic motivation, like, hey, your employer, your manager, he's telling you, you got to do this because in return I pay you a salary. So what we are doing, it's really like we are always meeting an external expectation. Everything we do is based on a condition. Okay, that's the normal thing. Okay, so what is wrong about that? I mean, you can't live from the fried air and from prana, but I get to that point, like how can we really become like energy generators? That's really what we are talking about, because that's what we not really are doing. Because what we are doing is we're living through different states of consciousness, and the level of awareness that we are in, I've already mentioned that, is from a state of survival-based consciousness. Like we have been indoctrinated by industrial revolution way of thinking, like clocking in, clocking out, because that will give you, you know, safety, security, stability, whatever. I mean, that used to work back in the day, because from one salary you were able to sustain a whole family from it, which is now, of course, everybody knows it's impossible. Cost of living, major issue here in the Netherlands. Plenty of work, they can't find enough workers, that's not a thing. So those who have work have to work for 2 or for 3 people at once. Another thing is, of course, like, hey, those who are having work, they can't find any house, apartments, because there's a massive shortage of housing, there's a housing crisis. Then, of course, there's a cost of living crisis. Young people who study hard, who work hard, who've been through the universities, who got a bachelor, master degree, or whatever, PhD, they collected massive amount of study debt, and then they come into the workforce, and then they realize they still have to begin at the bottom for a salary that give them very little options and the freedom of choice, which is very difficult to pay off the debt, let alone finding a reasonable place to live. So that's an issue. There's a shortage of workers here in the Netherlands, and then of course we are importing lots of people from other countries that are coming here for, you know, work-life stability, which is adding more fuel on the fire, more pressure, cost of living is going to increase, housing crisis and all of it. So what is that doing to us? Of course, it's affecting our personal life, which can also affect our work life. But what I'm referring to is that we live in a system that is making us sick. We are conditioned, we are living in a survival-based consciousness. We have to fit into a box, into a matrix of conditioning and programming, and if we don't fit into that, then, you know, you fall off the wagon. So first of all, we have to fit into that. We have to squeeze ourselves into that. We are coming in with a mental level of awareness, doing physical labor work or mental labor work. Like I already said, the majority of jobs are right now mental labor work, where we sit indoors in front of a computer, not in touch with the elements, with nature, the sun and all of it. So we are becoming, of course, completely disconnected from nature, the elements and all of that. So it is really like a very superficial way of living. That's another thing. And then, of course, you need to ask yourself, so what is it that really drives me? What is it that really motivates me? Is it really coming from my own intrinsic motivation, like I feel a drive for something? But what kind of drive do we actually feel and experience? That's another thing. Once again, this is much more seeing this from a holistic perspective. Because when I look back to my early 20s, I had the drive because I went into digital marketing, because I wanted to have the freedom to travel and have independence and all of that. And of course, I like the lifestyle that comes with it, but the work that goes involved into that, it's really like doing a lot of mental labor work in front of a computer and not really being in touch with the nature and the outdoors and all of it. Of course, I kind of really find that really mentally and emotional draining. Another thing is, of course, like we work in a very individualistic way. So social isolation, it's another thing that can really drain us. But if we really look to, of course, corporate hierarchy and corporate culture in order to really move up the levels in a pyramid scheme of a corporation, there's a lot of elbows that gets in the way in order to move ahead. So those who can manipulate in the best way as possible, who can step down to others so they can step up, can also be a major effect on your mental health and emotional well-being. So what else can really drain you is like the pressure from your team leader, colleagues, bullying, where also you don't really receive any appreciation. Basically, if you're doing your work okay, then you get ignored and neglected, basically. If you're doing your work not good enough, you get negative feedback. That's really kind of like the work culture, the negative feedback. Like all you're getting is you're not doing this good enough, that is not good enough, this is not good enough. What kind of motivation is that? Not really, is it? But also, like, what is that really motivates you in order to do that specific kind of role? I mean, we have created so many jobs right now that are absolutely nonsense. They are like a lot of bullshit jobs that nobody really needs, but you know, like product owner or consultant of what to optimize bottom line of some kind of corporations that haven't really invented anything. They're just doing something else a little bit different in order to optimize profits and all of it. And then we need like endless consultants who can consult these corporations to optimize the profit and the bottom line. And there are so many other roles that doesn't make any kind of contribution to the world and to human health and the improvement of society and all of it. It's all like digitalization and artificial intelligence, and the list goes on and on and on. So that's another thing. So you really need to ask yourself, okay, so what is it that really drives me? You know, what kind of intrinsic motivations do I have? Like, once again, like I said, when I was like starting my career after I finished college, because I went to college because I had two options: joining the Dutch Marine Corps or go to college. Actually, I wanted to go to the Marine Corps because I thought like, hey, travel, outdoors, adventure, learning specific kind of skills that could be, you know, very useful, I thought. But I was a minor, but that said, go to college and discussion. That's what I did. I went to college. But throughout my college years, I found the motivation to have like a side hustle, start up a car cleaning business, offer my services to local car dealers, and that's really how I found my own independence financially. And then I came out of college and I sold all my car cleaning equipment and I applied for a corporate job in the shipping industry, and that was the moment where I started to feel very, very stuck and depressed. And that's really how I became really highly disconnected from myself, co-workers, the job, the role that I had to do, for life overall, and that really started to drain me. So I needed a way to find a way out. That's why I went into internet marketing and online entrepreneurship. Yes, many ups and downs before I started to make money online. And this is not about how to make money online. This is more about finding that's what makes you come alive, which is probably one of the most difficult questions someone can answer to themselves, because we are conditioned to fit in into the mundane. Like everybody is different. Like we have different kind of soul types, let's say it in that way. Let it be in rounds, but then you need to force yourself to fit into a square box. I mean, think about those who have finished a university degree and they get like the black hat, you know, and what does it represent? Being able to think inside this box. So what else is leading towards burnout? I think number one, it's really like, how do we generate our own energy first of all? Because if you find something that makes you come alive, that inspire you, so you don't have to do a lot of disciplined action, like going through all your to-do list and optimize your productivity and your time management and meet external expectations and all of it. that could be a way to completely drain your energy levels. Another thing is, of course, like personal life, relationships, marriage. If you're like in a codependent relationship, for example, or in a relationship where there's like a lot of manipulation and all of it, of course, that's also going to drain you. So instead of looking into time management and productivity, why not look more into energy management? Like how can we really optimize our mind, body and spirit? I mean, if we think really like to a culture here in the Netherlands, I mean, so many people are coming in from Italy and Spain and Portugal because of the working opportunities, but they exchange good food and the sun for not so many sun hours here and not so great food here either, for work opportunities, income stability, work-life balance, all of it. So this is kind of really what we have here. We have working opportunities here, but if we look to the overall quality of life, it's maybe a 6, maybe a 6.5, maybe a 7 if you are maybe doing a little bit better. Because what else is really affecting us? Think about the air we breathe, right? We can go into, you know, what the hell they are spraying into our atmosphere. One other thing, the water we drink. What is it that is in our drinking water? The food we eat. I mean, seriously, nutrition. We can go into nutrition, make a whole other video about it. But maybe you want to check out my playlist and about live goods and supplementation. So looking after the body is number one. Exercise. How much do we exercise? I mean, especially for us as men, if we stop lifting weight, going to the gym, after age 30, testosterone is declining massively. What you see here from lots of West European men, a lot of West European men, their testosterone is on a massive decline because of our way of life. You know, we're working indoors, the food we eat, we don't really exercise that much. So that's another issue, of course. And then we have like other things going on here in the Netherlands. The never-ending increase on taxes over meat and really animal products. And instead, we need to believe that soya-based products are better for the environment. This tiny little shitty country believes he's going to save the global environment and all of that. So we are very left liberal kind of orientated. But basically the worst thing is we are following the footsteps of the United States. That's really the problem here. So if you get ill, if you get sick, well, what do we tend to do? We tend to go to our general practitioner, right? Our main doctor. He doesn't do anything. The only thing is like examine your issues, and he's either going to prescribe some medication or he's going to refer you to another kind of health organization. And then you have to do another bunch of intakes after you have been on a waiting list for some time. And then you have been through a couple of intakes, and then what did you get to hear? Well, you know, it's probably not ADHD, it's probably childhood trauma, but we are not doing anything with it. There's another organization up there, and you start the whole process all over again. So regulated healthcare is another major issue in countries like the Netherlands. That is, of course, is really like, it's not really here to help people, but to profit out of them. Like this country is like one major corporation. The VOC has become Netherlands, and we are a colony. We are a colony of European Union and the United States. So that's really how it goes. This country is run by the global corporations, and everybody who's trying to do something for themselves, they get slaughtered by rules, regulations, taxes. So you better just accept you're going to be a good, loyal citizens and tax-paying, law-abiding citizens going into the corporate job, and you better accept that you're going to be a middle-class person. Alright, if you want more, find a way to go to the council and say, I am out. But for that, you need, of course, better financial options and the freedom of choice financially. So that's another thing, is that we also have like a lot of pressure that we can put on ourselves by everything that we see on social media and the kind of options that we have available, which is giving us option stress and anxiety. Like, should I start a real estate Airbnb business? Should I go into dropshipping? Should I go into affiliate marketing? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I become an influencer? Should I, have a different kind of lifestyle because I see that other people are having it? Can I also have that? So, of course, that can also really put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We could go into different directions. We could say, all right, I'm going to accept that I will be nothing more than a middle-class citizen. All right, I do my hours, I do my time in this prison, in this golden cage of comfort and convenience and complacency. I come back home and I pay attention to my overall health, well-being and all of it. And maybe you say to yourself, you know what, I don't really need all this pressure to go and climb this corporate hierarchy, because all I'm doing is I'm nothing more than chasing a carrot on a hamster wheel, going absolutely nowhere. Okay, and I only have to sacrifice my mental, emotional well-being for it. And you pay more attention. You accept that, all right, this is how it is, and I'm going to have much more of a basic, simple way of life. Okay, and I use my time for my health, my wellness, my well-being. I look into health and nutrition. I look into my fitness. I look into holistic health, alternative health, preventative health, because holistic health, alternative health, preventative health, like how do we actually avoid getting sick, it's not really that fully recognized here either. Mental health, for example, or spiritual health. Some organizations say that have maybe more like female management who recognize that, instead of this kind of like really male-dominated kind of industries, where they are more like, just go hustle, grind, and you will get there. But more like organizations in healthcare, maybe they recognize, okay, so we need to have like holistic, preventative health systems to look after our employees, because we do recognize that if an employee who has like a full-time unlimited contract falls away, is like a major expense for a company, because they have to continue to pay the first year over 100% of the salary, the second year maybe 80 or 70%. So that's another thing. Now, of course, you could also say, well, maybe because we have so much of work-life balance and we have more free time, maybe we also have more time to think about the things people in Latin American countries don't have time to think about, or people in United States countries. They don't have time to think about, because all they are doing is they are always switched on, hustling, grinding, working on this hamster wheel, maybe 2 or 3 different kind of roles or jobs, or they have their own business and they're working 80, 90 hours of business in order to get ahead and do well. Okay, so we could also say, okay, so because we work less, we have more time on our hands. Now, what is it that really could bring me more meaning and purpose and fulfillment in my life? Okay, that I could do besides working a normal kind of like job, because the majority of the jobs are absolutely pointless, meaningless. They don't really make any kind of contribution than only maintaining an already broken system. Corporate capitalism, but doesn't really do any kind of difference for human life and health and to evolve the planets and all of it. So anyway, so we still have to go along with it, but then alternatively really look for our minds, body and spirit in a more holistic way, as a way to prevent we going sick. Because once you get sick, you go to your doctor and you get medications. Once you get on medication, if the pharmaceutical industry has the intention to really make you better, they will go out of business. So they want to make more money out of you. So the medication you take is probably going to give you more symptoms. You get more sick, and then they will treat you the symptoms Okay, and so can you imagine that the regulated mainstream healthcare is disapproving holistic alternative health? They say it's like a scam, it's not scientifically proven. But now we're talking about science. First we had the global religions taking over the world. Religions, they of course eventually became very capitalistic, and capitalism of course needed science and scientists to prove that their formula has scientifically researched. So of course the question is like, these scientists, by who they were funded in the first place. Okay, so of course you could say, well, science is the beautiful philosophy of always asking yourself questions like what else is at the other side of this edge. Maybe some scientists are still like that, but of course we also have a lot of science that has been funded by the global corporations. So a lot of information, rambling a lot, but it goes much further and deeper. It's really asking ourselves like, how can we generate our own energy through inspired action? Because to be inspired, we need to be in spirit. So besides the mind, body and spirit, looking after your physical health, your mental health, say to yourself, well, maybe I do not really need to climb this corporate ladder. And you say, okay, I'm going to take a couple of steps back and I want to pay more attention to my health, wellness, spirituality. I want to have the time to get out more in nature, go for walks on a regular basis. Also other cultures, especially like in the UK, I was very surprised about that. Like people, they only have like a quick meal deal behind their desk, like a sandwich from Tesco with a bag of crisps and some soda, and they crack on with whatever it is they do. And then within my break, I actually went out for a walk, and then I came back and then they were like, what are you about to do? I said, I have a break, I go for a walk, I need some fresh air. And pretty soon after that, my contract was being terminated. So that's other kind of like work cultures. But instead, also here, if you have like 30 minutes of a break, what are you going to do? Just shove your foot down your throat really, really quick. Don't question what you are eating. It doesn't really nourish you or feed you, or it just fills you up so you're not longer hungry for some time. But then of course you crash down and you have other kind of cravings. And then after that you actually need to go for a quick walk to stretch your legs and get some air. Hopefully with some sunshine as well. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and there's the holistic perspective of how we are treating our mind, body and spirit. There is also the aspect of, are we really working from our soul? That what we are doing, does it give off meaning, purpose, drive? And then what kind of drive? Does it really come like we really want to make a contribution? Or the drive really comes from our primary need for survival? So we are operating from a survival-based consciousness. We are meeting some kind of external expectation or condition. Instead, we are working from something that is unconditional. Like we feel within our own hearts, like this is who I am in my most true authentic self. And based on that, I found my passion. Okay, finding your passion is really like the bridge that I had to walk over is from my own challenges, my own sacrifices that I had to take in my own life, and the way I had to suffer in my own personal life. How did you overcome these challenges and obstacles, and how could you also help others within this process? That's the definition of passion. And then find a way to, let's say, turn that into a purpose. Okay, is moving beyond your own need for survival. Think about the pyramid of Maslow. Once your basic needs are fulfilled, what's next? Okay, the need for self-actualization and self-realization. Connecting more with the human spirit and soul of, once again, opening up the heart, connecting with the true authentic self, through realizing, okay, so what are these emotions that really plays a massive role within me, okay? And then we can really further reach the core. And then building the bridge of finding and building and creating and manifesting your passion and purpose is really like, how could we package that, for example, through creating something of your own and product and service, and turn that into a service-based business, for example. Just one example. Instead of slaving yourself away in wage slavery. And then find a way to be independent, free, abundance, and then move to other places around the world where conditions are better, where there's a lower cost of living, where there are better food options, more healthier, okay, and increase the quality of life, okay, more sunshine, spend more time in the ocean, in the sea, swimming, connect more with nature, have a more balanced way of life. And breaking out of this matrix condition that we need to spend 8-9 hours on this treadmill that is going to give us a false illusion of safety, security and stability. So, there you have it, lots of information. Now, of course, there's lots you can do about it in order to break out of it, which, of course, that's why I've created this channel, Germanic Wellness, which is wellness coming from the Germanic lowlands that also, of course, has been influenced by a more of an animistic way of life, all right? Where we also talk about topics around shamanism, for example. So if that has your interest, then make sure you subscribe, like, share, leave your thoughts, leave your comments. And of course you can also join our communities. I give readings into your soul as well, to see what it is that you are at and where you could be going. So if that has your interest, then of course you will find the links down below. And you can also find a source of where you can get started with your nutritional plan as well. But anyway, if you want to have a conversation about it, please let me know. And anyway, thanks for watching, and I see you later.